my bookish comrades. Welcome to Michael Romeo Talks Books. I'm Michael Romeo, and today I'm talking about a particular book. And let's see, to start off, let me say that March of the Mammoths has been announced for 2023. And I will put a link in the description down below to Old Blues Chapter and Verse channel, where you can see the official announcement that, once again, we will be doing March of the Mammoths. Oh, but what is March of the Mammoths, the new people may be asking. It's a reading event, and one that I thoroughly enjoy. A reading event where you agree to read at least one book in the month of March that is 800 pages or more, and can be as many more as you like. You don't have to finish it in the month of March. It's great if you do, but you don't have to. It's more just to get people more acquainted with super large books, with chunkers, with these brick doorstop novels or nonfiction books that can be intimidating by their size. Personally, I love a good thick book. Emphasis on the good. And I've had like last year on March of the Mammoths, I failed because I picked a book I absolutely could not tolerate, and just could not get through it. Could not even get into it. So this year I'm hoping to do better, and I am hoping to read an entire long book in the month of March. That's dedicating the month to the one book, with the exception of what my wife and I read to each other in the evenings before she goes to bed and I go to work. But yeah, March of the Mammoths. It's a fun thing to get into a good, thick, meaty novel that can take you through generations. It can take you through just so much. I mean, there's even one I'm saying it can take you through generations. On the flip side, I know of one book called Noble House that's over 1,000 pages long, where the action in the story takes place over the course of 6 days. And I know that sounds kind of difficult to probably wrap your head around, but if you've read the book and you know it was a good book, then you understand how the author did it and why he did it. And the book I think I just said was Noble House by James Clavell. But that's not what I'm reading. As those of you who have watched my channel regularly have probably seen, even if you've just dropped in randomly and happened on one other video where I mentioned this, I am in the process of trying to recreate my mother's bookshelves from memory and reading the books that my mother read, because I know there are a handful of books that I've read, maybe more than a handful, a couple of handfuls, books that I've read that I know my mother read, that I know my mother enjoyed, and I also enjoyed. And I was pondering and saying, gee, my mother and I had similar taste in books. And yet there was just so much on her shelf when I was a kid that I either couldn't read it because I was too young, or when I went on to college, and my life after that point just, I read, but I wasn't home. I got in my own place. I was a grown up now, but my own place. I wasn't hanging out at mom's, and then all of a sudden my mom got rid of all of her books when they decided to move, I guess. And anyway, to make a long story short, the book I've chosen is one of those books that was on my mother's shelf for many years. and it's a 2-volume chunker. 2 volumes. I got to figure out how to get these thrift store stickers off. If anybody can offer me some help in that in the comments, I'd really appreciate it. Because I tried to peel them off and they'd taken the dust jacket with it. But anyway, the book is Harveys Sundown by K.B. Gilden. And it's in 2 volumes, but it's one story. And the total page count comes in, if I remember, yes, comes in at 1,135 pages. I think that's over 800. I think it'll count. And what is Harveys Sundown about? Besides being a tumultuous novel of passion and pride. Yay, passion and pride. This was published in 1964, so it also meets the criteria of my channel, where I predominantly read books of the 20th century. And it's referred to then as a contemporary masterwork, bold and living in its characterization, striking in its force and clarity, immense in the every-sided examination of its every situation. And goes on to describe progress had been long coming to Arcady by the war's end, with the near completion of sunset. A mammoth, there's that word, this is meant to be, a mammoth mechanized farming operation. The little Georgia town wasn't too many steps away from full industrialization. Only 2 things blocked Henry Warren from fulfilling his task of uniting the entire Arcady Valley: Rad McDowell's farm, bordering on the river, and Reeve Scott's acreage, adjacent to Rad's and stretching across the valley to the through road. Together, the pitiful little dirt farms of these 2 crackers returned from the war, cut Sunset in 2, and threatened to split asunder the wound that 80 years of reconstruction were just beginning to heal. As the rival forces of tradition and progress make a battlefield of the valley, several interlocking narratives unfold in this brilliant novel. A member of the archaic Arcady aristocracy attempts to dispossess the family of the woman who had nursed her through childhood and taught her the meaning of good. A powerful industrialist tries to recapture the thrills of his penniless youth. An idealistic young minister works to join his opposing parishes in a spirit of genuine brotherhood, only to meet vicious resistance from both camps. A judge whose activities on the edge of the law have made him wealthy seeks the political plum that has eluded him for 20 years. 2 physicians, one spineless and guilt-ridden, the other unscrupulous and unfeeling, bid for recognition in quite different ways. And the social structure of the whole community pulses and surges as its members try to make their way upward. And about the author, K.B. Gilden, is the joint signature of Bert and Katya Gilden, husband and wife, who have previously collaborated on short stories and screenplays. And I know one thing I remember being mesmerized by when this was on my mother's shelves and I was a kid too young to read it, is the cover art. I just love that cover art. That setting sun with the barbed wire, I think it's just a stunning little piece of primitive art. And the barbed wire goes all the way around the back of the book, right? But not only does this meet my 20th century criteria for books I read, it also, as I said, is a book that was on my mother's shelf that I remember being there that I never read and wanted to read. But I also have a project of reading books that movies were based on, movies that I've seen, but I've never read the books. Well, I've seen this movie, never read the book. I saw the movie years ago on television. It was with commercials. It was like this 4-hour dramatization. Um, and I'm sure it was edited for television. Um, so, just for a little bit of fun, let me go ahead and read just the first page. Chapter 1 is titled, Home is the Soldier, November 1st to the 2nd. The bridge was just the way he remembered it, arching up so it all but hit the sky. Marshland fell away abruptly on either side of the rails, and the highway rose so all he could see through the windshield of the car he had borrowed from his brother-in-law back at the Bay City station was that, the taut bow of the bridge leaping into the depthless blue sky. But he'd forgotten how bright the Georgia sky could be, with a hard, unreal brightness like a picture postcard, not a cloud, no haze, nothing to soften the blueness. Before he left home, he didn't know the sky was different other places as well as the earth and the people on it. Rad loosened the collar of his GI shirt as he drove up the half-mile span, unknotting the tie that had become tight as plow harness around his neck. The bridge reared up, so that it looked for a minute as if he would be dropping down the other side of nowhere. After all the bridges behind him bombed down and blown up, this one was whole. Then he was over the crest. The green Delta Islands spread below dark as swamp cypress this time of year, lapped about by the slow-moving tidewater. Almost too quickly, the old car coasted down into the little town at the island's edge, and the bottom fell out of his stomach. It came up to meet him on the aromatic freshness of the marsh wind, the fecund black urgency of alluvial mud, the keen iodine odor of shrimp drifting from the ramshackle wharves of the waterfront, sharp as cordite, penetrating as pain, tensing his bladder, rooting and burrowing, encompassing him in an anticipation too great to be borne. Everything was the same. That was what hit him so hard. That's how it starts. 1,100 plus pages for March of the Mammoths. Are you doing the March of the Mammoths event? If you are, let me know in the comments down below what you're thinking of reading. It starts March 1st and goes through the month of March. But as I said, if you don't finish your book in March, it's no big deal. I've heard of people who have finished their March of the Mammoths book around Christmas time. So, no, don't let the size of the book scare you. Don't let it intimidate you. Because thick books can take you on a journey that is unforgettable. That is the height of literature. And I guess that's it for March of the Mammoths. As I said, I will put a link to Chapter and Verse down below, which is the channel that spearheads this. He's the curator, and some other people help him out. I know Steve Donahue has already put up an announcement that he's doing it, and I've seen a couple of others. So this is my official announcement. March of the Mammoths, Harveys Sundown by K.B. Gilden, book from 1964. And I'll keep you posted as I read it on how it is and how it's going. Remember to leave the comments. I want to know what you're going to read. Talk to you again soon. Bye.